Over the past sort of 2 months or so, I have really been noticing that the media in particular has actually started slowly but surely questioning more of Nigel Farage's statements. Not only that, but they are actually slowly but surely starting to give him more scrutiny. Now, quite frankly, it's about goddamn time, but because why you have to ask, is this happening now? Because why you have to ask, this is happening now? I don't know. It's a way strange way to phrase it, but that's the way I phrased it. So yeah, why is this happening now? Well, partly it is because there are a lot of people very now concerned. Oh, this guy actually might be prime minister. So we should probably ask him some questions now and start to actually, show him some scrutiny. Because previously, before, no one really showed him any proper scrutiny or anything like that because he was nowhere near the levers of power. Now, potentially, he might be closer than he has ever been closer to these types of things before. And journalists are now actually starting to ask him some questions. Not only that, but scrutiny around Farage as well is also going to start increasing. And guess what? Not only just press scrutiny, but let's just say people like HMRC suddenly might decide, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in and around Nigel Farage and some of his, key allies. Maybe we should, look into some of these people and just see if they are, really above board. And that is what has started to happen today. Because we've got HMRC today looking into the a key figure of Nigel Farage's entire operation, a guy who pretty much finances Nigel Farage. We've said this before. Farage is a kept man. He has all these millionaire and billionaire buddies who will gladly back his entire campaign, his lifestyle, because eventually, when he gets in, well, you know, they'll do he'll do a favor. It's old Nigel. He'll do them a favor. He'll pass that law. He'll get rid of that. And yet, a lot of these reform people still, for some reason, insist that Nigel Farage is a man of the people. He certainly is a man of the people, just not the people who you think. So, as always, before we do go on getting into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There is again, the links down below for the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course the YouTube membership as well. You can also scan the QR code up there. That'll take you straight to the Patreon page. And of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well so you get notifications of when we go live or we drop a new video. So, as always, thank you very much for all the help and support you guys do show the channel. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, let's crack on then into this. So this coming out now for tax authorities now examine finances of key Nigel Farage ally. So the finances of one of Nigel Farage's key confidants are now being examined by the UK's tax revenue authorities, and now questions over his income from his wealth and business activities the Guardian now understand. The scope of the exercise by HMRC is said to be focusing on the tax residency and the business affairs of George Cottrell, one of Reform UK's leaders Farage has described as, quote, like a son to me. Known as Posh George, Cottrell of 31 leads a very expensive lifestyle, frequently traveling around the world and regularly using a 4 million house in one of the wealthiest areas now in West London. Cottrell has emerged as a senior figure within Reform and the leadership and supports a network at the time of when the party is now surging ahead in the polls. A recent BNJB poll from the I newspaper put the party on at least 35%, 15 points ahead of Labour. While Cottrell, of course, does not hold any official role, party insiders instead refer to him as part of Farage's inner circle when it comes to policy developments, party funding, and political strategy, particularly its growing presence on social media. So, as you can see, it's not just Farage we should be concentrating on. It's who are the people around him as well. what type of influence is this guy going to have on Farage should he be in power? What do you think this guy's going to try and push Farage to do? So lawyers for the British businessman said that they were, quote, not aware of any probe or inquiry by HMRC or other authorities. They declined to answer, of course, a range of questions, specific questions about all his financial affairs. Cottrell runs geostrategy.com, which states that and advises of political parties and governments, according to now information provided by his lawyers. Its website says and it has 4 different locations in London, Washington, Pagoda in Montenegro, and Zurich in Switzerland. He's also now working on a book titled How to Launder Money. Alongside, of course, an international financial investigator. Published the, of course, materials for his book describe it as a, quote, a guide now for law enforcement, prosecutors, and policymakers, which provide concrete recommendations on how to reduce the crime associated with money laundering. It also states that cultural proceeds from the book will have goes to charitable causes. We'll see what happens when that book comes out and what it actually says on that. But very weird that this guy is suddenly, anti-money laundering on that one. Call me, X to doubt on that one. Cottrell's, of course, provided financial support for Farage, paying over £15,000 for flights just to the US for the party leader just last year, at a time when Cottrell is now understood to have claimed that he was a tax resident in Montenegro back in 2024. His mother, Fiona Cottrell, has given over £750,000 to the party, according now to public records. Again, it's a lot of money to give to a political party. UK political parties can, of course, only accept donations, of course, from individuals on the UK electoral register, unless, of course, it is for a cost of trip overseas, which in case foreign residents can at least help fund the travel. Sources, of course, with knowledge and examination of the finances have at least said scrutiny is, of course, well underway by HMRC. At present, HMRC interest is, of course, understood not to be a formal investigation. The tax authorities could, of course, ultimately decide to take no further action if they are at least satisfied that Cottrell has paid the right taxes. The question, of course, over his income from his wealth and business activities are, of course, understood to have been due in part to Cottrell's continued pursuit of high-stakes gambling, sources have told The Guardian. In 2017, he was jailed for 8 months in the US after pleading guilty to wire fraud. He offered money laundering services now on the dark web. Really? And this guy's writing a book on money laundering? That sounds like a PR ploy to me. Sounds like a PR ploy. But there you go. At least, of course, the time he was characterizing himself as having a years-long multi-million-dollar gambling addiction, and his legal representative said that he would, of course, seek treatment in order to stop, blaming it now for the triggers of his illegal activity. Gambling, of course, can result in large sum of money being moving in and out of bank accounts and therefore spark the interest of HMRC, causing officials to readdress an individual's finances. Questions, of course, over compliance with tax residency rules can also be another trigger for tax officials. The authorities are at least understood to be paying particular attention to Cottrell's use of the multi-million property now in West London. Non-UK residents do have to pay UK tax on their overseas income, provided, of course, they are spending no more than 90 days a year in the country. Longer stays can at least mean that an individual is, of course, treated as a resident now for tax purposes, and tax authorities, of course, include stricter tests for assessing compliance and, of course, checking now for significant ties, which is whether an address is, of course, available to them now for continuous periods of 91 days or more during that tax year. Cottrell is, of course, previously been linked to, of course, several different London homes, as used since his West London properties several times over the past year, according to sources. The Guardian has been told that Cottrell and his suggested to friends that he owns the property, of course, in West London, that he appears now to be, of course, at odds with the public records at the Land Registry and Companies House. Surprise, surprise. Which, of course, is listed now as being owned by a company controlled by a different supporter of Reform UK. My, what a tangled web we weave. It was, of course, last sold in 2021 for more than 4 million. Cottrell used to answer any questions, of course, about the property. Cottrell's lawyer said that he lives in Montenegro and has not been a tax resident in the UK for several years and complies with residency rules about how long he can stay in the country. An individual record at least owning a property in West London did not respond directly to requests for comment. The representative for them said that they do, quote, not respond to speculative requests, particularly where the facts are wrong. Material, of course, seen by The Guardian does, of course, suggest that Cottrell has been using the same London address, including doing for business and dealings of delivery for high-value items such as works of a variety of different dates since at least last November. Tax officials are also understood to be scrutinising Cottrell's use of crypto exchanges, businesses that, of course, move currencies in and out of crypto assets. This is understood to include now a clutch of transactions made through the crypto exchange Tether.bet, the parent company of GT Holding. Lawyers now acting for Cottrell said that he was not a director, a shareholder, or stakeholder in Tether.bet or GT Holding, and has had no involvement in any of the companies that use cryptocurrencies. So, of course, guess what? Which is the only party out there currently advertising, or at least saying they're going to make better for all those cryptocurrencies? And also, who is the only party that is accepting donations in cryptocurrency? Oh, that would be right, Reform UK. Something that definitely needs to be looked into. Reform UK has also been an advocate for allowing political party donations in cryptocurrencies, claiming, of course, to be the first party to allow support this way. Farage said that he wants the UK to be a powerhouse for digital assets. Cottrell is understood to at least be one of the leading advocates with the reform for the campaign to make the UK party policies more crypto friendly. Well, that should be ringing alarm bells straight away on that front. Before, of course, he became involved in Farage's political career, Cottrell said that he pursued a career in the financial services, including hoping to set up now a private office in Mayfair to manage the finances of a, quote, well-known international family. At the age of 19, he is said to have at least told The Guardian that he gained wealth through now an investment portfolio. Yeah, but where did he get that investment portfolio from? Of course, in recent years, Cottrell has moved between Montenegro and the UK. He has also now been very close ally involved with UKIP and Farage's former party, and rose to prominence again last year, helping Farage during the general election campaign for Reform UK. The spokesperson for HMRC said they did not either confirm nor deny that investigations cannot be commented on now as infallible for taxpayers or businesses due to strict confidentiality laws. So, yeah, surprise, surprise on that one. That should be ringing. I don't know about you, but that rings a lot of alarm bells to me. And if I were investigative journalists, look, Farage has been investigated to death. Literally. Lots of journalists have looked into everything. They've put Farage under a microscope. We know pretty much everything at this point about Farage's dealings. What we don't know a lot about is who isn't around Farage. Aaron Banks, of course, became a big source of interest to a lot of journalists. From 2016, a lot of people looked into him quite a lot. There are numerous other people that are around Farage that I think should start to be looked into as well. Well, journalists will, of course, question Farage's comments and stuff on that one. Start to look at who are who these inner circle people are. Who else is in his inner circle? What do they think? What are their political ideas? What are they trying to push within the party? And very quickly, you will see a party that is not in favor of, the average Brit, but instead is a party that is pretty much geared and led and intends to lead what I think could be classically called a revolution from the top down, meaning that these very wealthy people will come in and start doing things that will benefit only them while pretending and throwing scraps to the people below. So hopefully we'll start to see more things like this, looking at who is in and around Farage. But of course, that will take a lot of investigative journalism. Wouldn't surprise me to see if we cover this guy again in the future at some point. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.